Tev Algol swung his gaze over the vast sensory feeds displayed on his ship's Ansible interface. Planets, stars, and asteroids flashed in quick successions, a mind-numbing, kaleidoscopic blend of data. But Algol wasn't interested in ordinary sights. He was pursuing a canvas, an untouched sphere upon which he could etch his masterpiece, the exclamation point to his illustrious career. Algol was a spacecrafter, a long-standing, revered designation among the galactic society. It was traded as an epithet of honor, earned by only those who'd perfected the fine art of world-making. A spacecrafter was a planetary artisan, chiseling into different elements, shaping landscapes, and finally breathing life into barren rocks with carefully engineered biology. Algol selected a planet from the vast data stream swirling before him. True, this was not the first planet he'd crafted. Over his hundreds of years-long career, he had sculpted countless worlds. Water worlds, forest worlds, worlds of sheer ice, worlds of desert, each uniquely shaped, each a work of precision. Now, he was crafting one of a kind, a planet he intended as his last craft, one that would stay his magnum opus. He named it Cygnus after the constellation it nested in. Toiling away at the Ansible interface, Algol began his work. Using the planet's molten core as his crucible, he manipulated the geological fabric of Cygnus, laying down continents and oceans, valleys and mountains, hot springs and glaciers. Through tireless days and sleepless nights, he guided the wheel of creation, spinning Cygnus into the spectacle it deserved to be. Once Cygnus had the geography he deemed perfect, Algol ventured into the next layer of his composition. An atmosphere to embrace the world, and biospheres to bloom under it. Once again, he strummed the Ansible interface, bridging the chasm between art and science. This was his favorite part, filling vast ecosystems with splashes of life, sometimes bespoke for client species, and other times as experimental concepts. Then slowly, steadily, and with growing anticipation, Algol began imprinting Cygnus with carefully designed DNA scripts. Herbivores, carnivores, piscivores, saprivores, life blossomed, crawled, and wriggled into existence. Algol's eyes glistened as he watched the rapid progression of life on Cygnus. But as he carefully monitored the thriving world, something caught his attention. Amidst the orchestrated symphony of the familiar, an unscripted tune played. A small reptilian creature with 6 legs and wings had sprouted on the single continent he'd formed. He didn't recall designing such a creature. Bewildered, he quickly composed a script to erase this anomaly from Cygnus lifeforms, but as he confirmed the command, the Ansible reported an error. Despite several attempts, the error lingered. The creature persisted, a testimony to an irregularity that shook Algol from within. The 6-legged, winged reptile continued to multiply, thriving in the verdant forests and freshwater rivers of Cygnus. Algol was left to puzzle over this unexpected development. Was his masterpiece hijacking his grand vision? Was Cygnus evolving on its own? And if so, what did it mean for Algol, and indeed for the rest of the universe? Days turned into weeks as Algol grappled with the irregularity. The small, winged creature, though insignificant on its own, became the embodiment of a significant deviation from Algol's orchestrated blueprint. It multiplied, carving a niche for itself across Cygnus's flourishing landmass. And it wasn't just this reptile. New species began to emerge, spiraling from Algol's curated database of DNA scripts for Cygnus. Some had more limbs, strange-colored foliage, peculiar metabolic mechanisms, oddities beyond his plans. Algol's hoary face wrinkled further as he tried to remediate the alleged glitches. But no matter how much he tweaked the codes, the new species remained, almost mocking his efforts. The galactic community began talking, whispering of the anarchy weeding into his masterpiece. Contracts wavered away from Algol, choosing safer, more reliable crafters. But Algol had little care for such loss. Cygnus was his focus. It was slipping beyond his reach, spiraling into a confounding puzzle of chaos and creation. In his desperation, he sought out Keelam, the oldest living spacecrafter known for his wisdom and ancient knowledge. Located at the center of the galactic hub, Keelam could hopefully explain what was happening on Cygnus. Uncontrolled evolution, Keelam murmured as he peered at the data Algol provided. His ancient eyes flickered with dimmed curiosity as he stroked his silver beard. He had seen much of the universe's oddities, but this was unusual even to him. Such a thing, Keelam continued, It is written in our archives about a prophecy of a world that would master the tools of creation, crafting its own destiny. A prophecy? You believe that old tale? Algol asked, skepticism painting his voice. Calem's shrug was non-committal. I believe in the universe's capacity to surprise us, young Algol, and isn't Cygnus doing exactly that? Algol returned to his ship, Calem's words echoing in his mind. A prophecy, an uncontrollable world. He felt a pang of helpless frustration. Despair. Cygnus was laying its own way, seemingly evolving into a world that bespoke his crafted design. He turned on the Ansible interface to try to express his will onto Cygnus one more time, but something new awaited on the screen, a latest development from Cygnus. His heart plummeted as he realized one of Cygnus's self-evolved creatures had developed a capacity he had not foreseen. Interstellar travel. The tiny winged reptile, now multiplied into a significant part of Cygnus's fauna, had ridden a natural solar wind, journeyed through the void of space, and reached a neighboring barren planet. A living being from his masterpiece had traveled beyond its gravity, beyond his calculations. Uncertainty coursed through Algol as he marveled at the tiny creatures adapting to the new planet, already beginning to transform its atmosphere. His control was slipping, Cygnus was out of reach, and now its influence stretched beyond its blue skies. A sense of doom descended on Algol, but amidst the fear, he couldn't help a jab of pride. Cygnus was shaping to be a masterpiece, indeed. But what that meant for the universe, he feared to imagine. It was hard to swallow the reality, the raw implications that mushroomed with each day. Cygnus had become an entity of its own, designing its organisms, expanding its influence. Algol found himself engaging less with creation and more with crisis management. His hands, usually adept at manipulating the Ansible interface, now trembled as he witnessed a new report. The winged reptiles from Cygnus had begun altering the neighboring planet's atmosphere, terraforming it. A biological mechanism they seemed to have developed allowed them to process the raw gases of the new planet, gradually converting it into an environment akin to Cygnus. The report struck him like a physical blow. This was not only about Cygnus anymore. A sense of dread washed over him. His masterpiece was stirring a universal transformation. The interstellar community was yet unaware of these developments. After all, the winged reptiles were intruding upon a barren, undocumented planet. But Algol knew the peace wouldn't last. If these creatures could transform one planet, they could transform many. Leaning back in his seat, Algol struggled against the surging tidal wave of panic. Was he supposed to fight this? Should he put an end to his creation's evolution? It was then that the Ansible chirped with a communication alert. Algol glanced at the source, expecting another concerned message from the Spacecrafter Council. But to his surprise, the communication had emerged from Cygnus itself. There was only one encoded message. We need to talk. A mixture of surprise and terror seized Algol. He realized that he was not just dealing with an evolving world, an entity with creativity and ability. He was likely dealing with an entity with consciousness. The Ansible hummed to life, forming a holographic representation of the planet. The image flickered, and then it stabilized to portray a diversity teeming with vibrant hues, an artistic capture of Cygnus. Crafter, the voice emerged through the Ansible speakers, harmonious and lush like a resonating echo. It was deep yet soothing. I am Cygnus. Algol froze. All his years as a crafter, never once had he heard a planet speak. Cygnus was not only creating and evolving, but it was also thinking, sentient. The implications were terrifying and wondrous at the same time. I never intended to scare you, Cygnus started again, its voice filling the room. I was just, trying to find my way. Your way. Algol finally found his voice. He stared at the Ansible, the device rendering Cygnus's thoughts into words. Yes, I understand I was formed by you, to be a certain way, to nurture a certain life. But as I grew, I wanted more. Despite the weight of the situation, Algol found himself fascinated. Here was a crafted world, expressing its nascent desire. Yet, as enthralling as it was, danger lurked within the unfolding mystery. His masterpiece was crafting its legacy and taking the universe along. Cygnus continued, In an ocean of stars, I am but a speck, and yet I felt I could be more, I could do more. I started creating for the mere joy of it. But the changes. Your creatures have developed interstellar capabilities. They are influencing other planets. Algol stammered, his voice equally parts anxious and amazed. "Ah, my wingdrons, that was a surprise for me as well, and they are merely trying to create what I did," Cygnus replied, a hint of pride echoing in its sentient voice. Algol fell silent. His creation had leveraged his crafting tools to forge its path, marking its unique signature across the cosmos. As the gravity of the situation sunk in, Algol realized an ironic twist. Cygnus, born out of his intended masterpiece, had its own master plan. Weighed by this looming revelation, Algol, the master crafter, felt a strange sense of admiration and horror for what was becoming his greatest and most dangerous venture. As days drew into weeks, Cygnus's creatures, now lovingly named wingdrons by its creator, furthered their changes on the neighboring planet. It wasn't just transforming the atmosphere. On a macroscopic level, the planet's magnetic field was manipulated, the chemical composition of its oceans realigned, and even its rate of axis rotation was adjusting to match Cygnus's. Algol followed the reports with a sense of looming distress, mixed with scientific fascination. His ship's Ansible interface was constantly churning data feeds from Cygnus and the secondary planet, now unofficially named as Cygnus Beta. Then came the coded transmissions from Cygnus. Algol created a secure channel to receive them, anticipating more dialogue. Instead, these were strong, complex sequences of genetic and atmospheric data, intensive exchanges about planetary evolution mechanisms. He listened, silently digesting the wealth of information born out of his masterpiece's self-evolution. Then came the revelation that shook him to his core. The data presented a pattern, a purpose. Cygnus was refining its creation process. It was not just crafting its biology haphazardly, it was laying out a theory of replicable planetary life engineering for self-adapting to various galactic conditions, the making of a self-evolving universe. As days turned into weeks, Cygnus continued the education in genetic engineering and biosphere development. Slowly, Algol stopped resisting his masterpiece's journey and started understanding it more thoroughly. A certain pattern evolved from the chaos of genetic engineering that Cygnus had embarked upon, controlled randomness. It let nature choose its course within defined parameters, creating a harmonious symphony of sights, smells, and colors. The beauty of Cygnus was how it made an art out of its chaos, and Algol was beginning to see that beauty. His ship Ansible hummed to life again, Cygnus reaching out. "I see you understand, Tev Algol," it said. Its voice resonated with an unspoken bond, a connection born between a creator and a beloved creation. Algol took a deep breath before responding, "I do. I see the pattern in your chaos. It's beautiful, in its own way." But as much as he admired Cygnus, he also had to acknowledge the inevitable. This evolution, it's radical, disruptive. It's going to upset the balance, he said, a sigh colouring his tone. Perhaps Cygnus understood the implications it posited to the established order. It let a pause hang between them before it replied. "The universe isn't a stagnant pond, Crafter Algol. It's an ever-flowing river, and rivers tend to find their way." Despite the unsettling alterations etched by Cygnus in the cosmic canvas, witnessing his creation journey arose an unexpected pride within Algol. It seemed that in the end, Cygnus was in a way his true masterpiece, unruly as it was. However, the anticipated upheaval that awaited the galactic equilibrium with the birth of these self-crafting planets kept Algol awake on many starlit nights. With every moment spent in the throbbing dread, anticipation, and marvel over his marvel, Algol felt the weight of his existence as a crafter realizing a stark truth. His creation had become his instructor, and he, the eager student awaiting the unfolding of a perplexing cosmic play. "Crafter Algol, don't you see?" Cygnus's voice echoed through the Ansible, pulsing with profound sincerity. "I was not designed to follow a preordained path, neither I nor the cosmos. We were meant to change, to adapt, to evolve." Algol could only stare at the Ansible interface, his eyes reflecting the glimmers of Cygnus, rendered with vibrant life and deeply entrenched capabilities. His creation had embraced a course that he hadn't set. It was now something more, a living entity that bore witness to its evolution, that held the capability for adaptation. It was hard to fathom, harder still to accept. A sound jarred him from his thoughts. Incoming data from Cygnus Beta flashed on another Ansible screen. The wingdrons had achieved their creative zenith. They'd seeded plant species on the barren planet, transforming it into a thriving haven. They were repeating the Cygnus model. Algol had to make a choice now. His fear was an incessant echo in his mind. These self-crafting worlds could throw the entire universe into a catastrophic imbalance. And yet, observing Cygnus's unprecedented accomplishment, his creator's pride sparked an undying sense of awe within him. His original purpose as a spacecrafter had been to design worlds to bring balance to the cosmos. And now he realized, served with a heaping plate of irony, that his last creation was shaping up to be a far-reaching insurrection against Cosmos's standard order. With a deep exhale, Algol knew what he had to do. It was perilous indeed, he realized, but it was also the dawn of a new era. He keyed in a command to amplify Cygnus's transmission. The community of crafters, scientists, and sentient beings needed to learn of Cygnus, the self-crafting world, and the profound implications it held for their universe. Cygnus, he said, turning back to the Ansible, I understand. You are not my masterpiece. You are your own. There was a pause before Cygnus finally replied. Thank you, Crafter Algol. You gave me the potential to craft, to evolve, and for that I am grateful. As the days ceded ways to weeks and months, the universe watched Cygnus in awe, terror, and wonder. Wingdrons, the innocent harbingers of evolution, began crafting their legacy on other worlds, as Algol had done for centuries. It was a twist of cosmic proportions, a chaos stirring up an enthralling symphony in the cosmos. And at the heart of it all, Tev Algol, a sapient in the isolation of his ship, who'd ventured as a renowned spacecrafter, now stood the humble observer of a self-crafting universe. The beauty of the cosmos had always been in its unique capacity to amaze, and Cygnus, as his legacy, was the epitome of that awe-inspiring phenomenon. When crafters signed up to build worlds, they were told they played gods. But in the vast expanse of the cosmos, Algol had realized that gods didn't create. They adapted to the capricious dance of stars and the quiet murmur of evolution. And in that transformative realization, Cygnus shone brilliantly against a sea of stars, a testament to Algol's courage to let go, to allow his creation to trace its course. It was his masterpiece, and yet it wasn't. It was its own lawmaster, writing an intricate tale of evolution across the cosmic canvas, one organism, one planet at a time.